So I request Dr. Madhura Kulkarni to kindly start with the workshop.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Yeah, so I'll just start from here. It's not my talk in the beginning. I'm just going to introduce the panelist. It's a workshop kind of panel discussion we are having about how to run the biobanks on ethical and moral grounds and how to make them sustainable. So now we are in the phase that a lot of people are starting biobanks, but taking them through sustainability, it's quite a challenge. And that's the whole gamut of this workshop here. And the panelists that we have Dr. Gouri here and Dr. Nandini. Dr. Birendra is joining in few minutes and myself. So Dr. Nandini is going to talk about why you need a biobank. Is that right? Okay. Dr. Nandini Kumar is going to be talking about ethics and biobanking. Dr. Gouri Mahajan is going to talk about biobank setup essentials. And I'll be taking it at the end, talking about sustainability strategies once you have an ethically established biobank. And Dr. Birendra will be closing down the session. He is actually supposed to start with why you need a biobank as well. But I think for this audience, we don't need to talk about why we need a biobank. We can straight away jump to Dr. Gouri Mahajan's talk, biobank setup and essentials, and then Dr. Nandini Kumar, and I'll close it down. By the time, hopefully, we'll have Dr. Birendra. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madhura, for introducing the workshop today, and thank you for this opportunity, Biobank India Foundation International Biobanking Conference. I'm really thankful for the opportunity. This is my first time attending this in person, so I'm really excited to be with everyone, like-minded people, like biobankers, be in one room and talking about biobanking and different aspects of it and the sustainability. So today I'm going to talk about building sustainable biobanking infrastructure, a comprehensive approach. So everyone knows how the power of biobanking is. So this particular pictograph you can see on your right hand side, it talks about how critical biobanking infrastructure is necessary for this translational science. We all know what biobanking is. I have been hearing all different talks, today and also yesterday, all interesting all around nation. Everyone represented their biobanks and talked about their challenges and opportunities in biobanking. As we all know, there are two different types of biobank: population-based biobank and also disease-specific biobank. So that particular biobanking infrastructure is very important as it provides access to high-quality, well-annotated biospecimens and data. So just having biospecimens is not going to do anything. We have to have well-annotated data that goes relevant medical data or clinical data that needs to be there with the biospecimens in order to make sense out of it. As we all know, it fuels biomedical research and it accelerates the discovery. It's essential for preclinical and medicine analytical, pre-analytical approaches, and also personalized medicine or tailored medicine approach in public health initiatives. So when I say precision medicine or tailored medicine, that means one size does not fit all. If suppose there is a patient who walks in with the hypertension, with the diagnosis of hypertension in the clinic, and this person is the male who is 45 to 50 years old, and versus a say 75-year-old female with different genetic background, different lifestyle, environmental exposure, but then they both get prescribed the same medication. So that needs to be changed. That's the meaning of the personalized medicine approach. And biobanking is going to help in coming up with the medications which are tailored for that particular individual based on different factors. Building a sustainable biobank foundation is very important. Establishing a successful biobank, it requires all-inclusive approach. It has different arms such as technical, operational, ethical, or regulatory, and also, of course, financial considerations. And having a long-term sustainability is very crucial for maximizing the impact of the biobank. So having different arms of this particular biobank in order to be successful is very important, as we all can imagine. There are different pillars for successful biobank. Robust governance framework is very important. That includes institutional biosafety committee, institutional revenue board, and also access committee. That means if there is a request for the samples, there should be an access committee for those particular samples in order to have the access principles set in order to provide the samples to the research community. That's what the meaning of the governance of the biobank. Standardization of the protocols of the biospecimen handling, which is very important for optimal workflow, and that's why SOPs or standardization operating protocols is very essential in order to run a biobank so that there is no variability. And advanced data management systems, such as laboratory information management systems, there are different types of LIMS systems that are out there, and having considering the scope of the biobank that you have, having the data management system that aligns with the scope of the biobank is something is very critical in order to have that. Adherence to ethical and regulatory standards, as we all know, in order to protect the personal information of the patients and according to the HIPAA rules, we need to adhere to the ethical and regulatory compliance or the standards which are set. And that's why the accreditation of the biobanks is very important. There are different types of accrediting body that are out there. One of them, most importantly, in Europe or in India, is ISO. That's the one which is set just for biorepository. But there is also CAP, which is American College of American Pathologists. That's something which is accrediting body in order to have the standard protocol which are set, and also the quality manual that is set for those standards for those accrediting bodies. Those are the two which are commonly utilized in Europe or in US or in India. Establishing clear governance, again, defining the roles and responsibilities of the personnel who are in the biobank is very important. So whenever the accreditation occurs, one of the important aspects of the biobanking accreditation is defining the roles and responsibilities of the personnel who are on the different side of the lab, also the supervisor of the lab, and quality and regulatory specialists. Establishing clear policies and procedures with robust validated workflows is again important, so that there is no variability. Whenever the samples are collected by the biobanks, it's very important that all the protocols are validated, they are optimized in order for running the biobanking and procedure and the processing of the samples. Ensuring transparency and accountability for stakeholders and patients and donors. So a biobank consists of partnership with donors or the patients who are ready to give their biospecimen or donate biospecimen for cutting edge research. The stakeholders, so that's the research community, investigators or clinicians who have a hypothesis for their research and they want to utilize this biospecimen is one of the important aspects of this biobanking. and also, of course, the surgical pathologist, whoever we partner with in order to collect the biospecimens and the tissue. Protection of the participants' privacy and data security is another important aspect. So having that system which is set or the workflow which is set for protection of the data or maintaining the privacy of the patient data is very important. So one of, like I said before, institutional review board, who are the one who are um, kind of umbrella over the governance for the consenting of the patients. There should be a biosafety committee who will have multiple audits during the year in order for maintaining the operations of the biobank. Access committee is again important, biospecimen access committee, those who will review all the sample requests that come through the biobank in order for utilizing those specimens. So there should be access principles which should be set by the access committee in order to have that particular workflow set up. Again, accreditation will make sure once a biobank is accredited, it will make sure either CAP or ISO that these all workflows are properly followed because there is a robust system again that is implemented through this accrediting body. Importance of standardization is again important aspect in any biobanking workflow. Consistent procedures for collection, processing, storage, and distribution is something critical for running a successful biobank operation. Minimizing the variability that ensures the sample quality. Uh, Again, facilitating the data and sharing and collaboration is very important. So one of the challenges that all over the biobanks that I'm talking of, multiple investigators or biobankers that I talk to, one of the things that they always say is underutilization of the biobank samples. So, uh, the term called biohoarding, that's what it indicates, that the hoarding of the biosamples. So any of the biobanks, they will keep collecting the data and the biospecimen. But if it doesn't get utilized, it's not going to generate any data. That's why sharing the biobank samples and having the open collaborations is very important. Data is the key to discovery. So integrating clinical and research data, having that often the data is collected from diverse sources like clinical records or medical record data, research studies, patient reported information, and omics data, such as genomics data. So there are different types of clinical research data, but having the integration between the two is very important. Utilizing database system is something again, it should be scalable to accommodate the increasing data volume, and it should be adaptable to incorporate the new data types and also the research questions. So whenever the samples are requested by the investigators, there should be a proper review process in order for the review of those research questions or the hypothesis that is brought forward, and then only the samples need to be dispersed to those investigators. So again, having that biospecimen access committee in place, along with the state access principles, is something very critical in order to have a successful biobank. Ensuring data quality and accessibility by the investigators, that includes quality checks, data curation, and enabling data analysis and data migration. That's again something which is very important in order for the analysis of the data. Ethical practices in biobanking is it refers to informed consent of the participants who are ready to give or donate their samples. May it be just the population biobank where normal control cohorts, they are the ones who are ready to donate the samples, or it can be any patients who are coming for the, say, tumor removal surgery or oncology surgery. If a proper consent is taken, rest of the clinical remnants of those tumor samples need to be bagged in order for further research. So again, consenting needs to be properly done in order to have that to be in place. and making sure that the donors understand that their data is properly maintained along with the confidentiality. Compliance with the relevant regulatory bodies is important, where again maintaining the HIPAA or making sure that the protected health information is not shared by everyone is something part of the informed consent. Addressing ethical dilemma such as PHI disclosure, we always face those dilemmas. I'm currently the director of the biorepository in Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona, where we constantly have the questions where there is a team of coordinators who are the ones who consent the patients. But even if the education is provided to those coordinators, we always have to make sure, my staff will always have to make sure that the PHI is properly maintained and it is not disclosed whenever the samples are transferred, say from one building to another or even from one institute to another institute. So ensuring safety in biobanking is another aspect, implementing the biosafety protocols to protect the personnel and the environment of the whole biobank as a facility itself. Risk assessment needs to be done every so often. So there are internal audits that take place every 3 to 6 months in a biobank in order to make sure that there are no gaps or there are no surprises whenever the accrediting body come on site for the assessment purpose. So adhering to established biosafety level, ongoing training of the personnel as well is very important. And again, wearing proper PPE and risk management plan in on which is in place is a very important. Handling in order to make sure that the personnel is aware of this. Control access to the area of the biobank facility is very important. Environmental monitoring and regulation of the inspection and the internal audits, like I said, is important aspect for that particular reason. Backbone of biobanking is efficient sample tracking and management system. So whenever the samples move from one building to another building or moving from one facility to another facility, the tracking of the samples is something which is important. Whichever transportation system that particular facility decides to use, having that in place is critical. Optimize storage and retrieval process. Again, that involves education of the personnel of the biobank and streamlining the workflows and communication of those for those personnel in order for a smooth working operation, day-to-day operations for a particular biobank. Navigating ethical landscape that includes transparency, proper consenting and data security, addressing data and access issues. So whenever there is a rights to access and modify, share, and determine usage of the data. So that's something is again part of the education of the personnel in order for smooth, successful operation of the biobank. Then ensuring the compliance with the regulatory guidance, again, data privacy and security, managing potential conflicts of the interest, such as financial and business conflicts. That is something that needs to be made sure again by the access committee who are in place for this particular operation of the biobank. Maintaining higher standard, so implementing the quality control procedures and validations of the protocol that includes internal audits, monitoring sample integrity and data accuracy, ensuring reproducibility and reliability of the research findings, sample data standardization management and documentation of and traceability. That's something it's maintaining the highest standard that encompasses all these factors. Building partnership for success. So again, just having the biobank samples along with the data is not going to do anything. That's why collaboration with different researchers, clinicians, and patients is very important. So even if the patients donate their samples, having that mechanism where patients are recontacted if suppose there is any particular finding that is there for the patients, which is an alarming finding, such as like for example a mutation of the genes is something which is discovered, then there are genetic counselors or primary care physicians who are trained in order for recontacting the patients in order to educate them and taking the next step as a part of the prevention. Communicating the importance of biobanking to the public is, creating the awareness of biobanking, building that trust, and fostering community support is again important aspect of the governance of the biobank. Navigating different challenges, and that's why there are potential solutions. So securing long-term funding with key stakeholders engagement and demonstrating the value of the impact of the biobanking. So every one of us in this room will agree that funding a biobank is very difficult. It's a challenging aspect for everyone, no matter where you are. Having a proper funding of the biobank is something is always something that one needs to take care of. Managing day-to-day logistics and operational challenges and efficient sample processing workflow depends on the trained personnel of those biobanks. Navigating complex legal ethical regulations, again, if there is a quality specialist or the regulatory specialist who is part of the team of the biobank, that person will certainly help for navigating these complex challenges. Ensuring quality control, so having those SOPs and implementation of the successful workflows is the foundation of a successful biobank. We all know that artificial intelligence and machine learning health tools are is an integral part of biobanking nowadays, which is we all know that it's going to help for diagnosis and prediction of a certain disease with the help of AI. So incorporating those diverse specimen types and processing methods is important for any particular biobank, and adapting to the evolving research needs along with the use of AI. Building for the future, developing scalable infrastructure to accommodate growth, automation in terms of DNA, RNA extraction, and also aliquoting of the blood samples is something is the future of the biobank, which ensures long-term financial scalability and adapting to challenging and changing research. So really we are working together for a common goal for establishing collaboration among researchers, institutions and stakeholders and different industry partners as well, sharing best practices and lessons learned. So this is why this consortium or this conference is very helpful, because we all learn from each other no matter where we are. There are different challenges, but at the same time we talk about those challenges here, and then we try to find potential solutions based on that particular biobanking facility. So building a global biobanking network such as biobanking societies like this is again very important. Future of biobanking is about sustainable biobanking is essential for advancing biomedical research. Overcoming challenges requires collaborative and adaptive approach. And investing in biobanking infrastructure is an investment for the global health, as we all can agree. So this is the facility where I am. So in this particular the building you can see on your left is where the biorepository building is. That's where this is a new facility comparatively in Phoenix, which got opened about 2.5 years ago. This is where we have about 80 to 85 minus 80s and manuality freezers and a couple of liquid nitrogen tanks, along with different centrifuge machines and also different equipment and all the personnel who are working there. You can see on your right hand side, that's the freezer farm. where there are different. This is a picture that was taken little bit about 4 months ago. Just few recently, couple of months back, which is a few more freezers. So this is like just to give you an idea how the Mayo Clinic Arizona biorepository looks like. This is my staff. So even if I'm standing here, actually they are the one who make me look good. So I just wanted to share that I really owe it to my staff. I'm really proud of my team. This picture was actually taken on Halloween day when we all decided to wear a white shirt and black slacks. So we had a theme to mimic a person in the biorepository. So this is the team of laboratory specialists, technical specialists, supervisor, and also quality specialist and operations manager. So I just wanted to share that with you all to get a little bit of perspective of where I come from. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am thankful for the opportunity to talk to different biobankers in this setting, and I'm happy to take any
लाइव तो नहीं
questions.
रोका है ना, मेरे पहले स्पीकर बोलेंगे ये उधर से बोले जा रहे हैं।
देख रहा हूँ।
Yeah.
अभी क्या हुआ फिर? अभी उसका क्या हुआ मतलब?
Yeah.
मतलब गौरी का?
Yeah, you are asking either ISO or
उसको भेज
tab,
दो
right?
अब।
Yeah. Yeah, it's R.
Samudra
It's
ko?
very expensive. One thing is expensive. It's very intense. It's a very long process. So that's why, if you do both, it's overkilling. So, yeah. It's a 2-year cycle. Yeah. So what happens is if you get an ISO, sometimes ISO it's 3 years also. So CAP, I know it's 2 years. So most of the times what happens is there are internal audits that need to be performed after the accreditation is achieved. And then within 2 years, the assessors, they do come again on site.
So the renewal is the same rigorous process as you apply, or
No, renewal is little bit easier. Every time, whenever you are doing anything, first time, of course, it's going to be a little bit more. Yeah.
no more questions, we can move on to our next speaker, Dr. Nandini Kumar.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gouri, for broad perspective on biobanking, and we'll focus on ethics specifically with Dr. Nandini Kumar.
So, a very good afternoon to all of you, to the few who are here. I'm going to talk about the ethical guidelines and regulations pertaining to India. So, we all know why we want biobanks, so I'm not going to elaborate on that. But long time back, people used to come and take specimens and run away to their country, either by sea, by air, or whatever. And this was termed as biopiracy. Today, you just cannot do that. So, almost every country which is having this biobank does have some sort of ethical guidelines or regulations. What's there in our country? 2017, ICMR's National Ethical Guidelines had a chapter on or a section on biobanking and biological materials and data. So this was actually an excerpt when the second revision came in 2006, because we were preparing the draft for that, and then in 2017 became a full-fledged section. There was another attempt by ICMR to create this National Biobank network, and you heard in the morning some remark on that by Dr. Anita. Now, 2023, we have had this bill was being talked about for a number of years, but it came out as an act in 2023, the DPDP Digital Privacy Data Protection Act. And now, till 18th February, public consultation comments were invited from the public regarding the rules pertaining to this act. So when it will come out finally as a final version, rules will take some time. So we all know the aspects, collection of blood, how to maintain it, and how to outsource it. And you heard the earlier speaker talking a lot about the aspects that we need to see for setting up a biobank which will have all these three aspects covered. So when it comes to ethical issues, the main thing that people talk about is about informed consent, the ethics committee approval, the legal aspects, the IPR issues, and who owns these samples. So when it comes to informed consent, in the ICMR guidelines, they have given different types of consent that you can take. But this came out in 2017. After that, we had this declaration of life where they have prohibited the use of the word blanket. And then there are situations where you may have to take a reconsent if you are going to take the same sample for some other use, secondary use or extended use. You will have to get consent from the donor. And when pediatric, in a long drawn project for a number of years, the children become major during that period. At that time, you will have to take a reconsent from them to be part of the study. Two things that we have to observe when we are talking about biological material is the consent process. Consent, whether you're going to use that material for this particular study alone, or are you going to keep it later? So if you're going to keep it later, generally I see the phrase for future scientific purposes. If you mean that, then you have to actually get the consent of the participant to allow that. So they may point blank refuse, or if you have to use at the time, come first take a consent. That's reconsent. Or they may say, okay, for this limited use, you may use this. All those, subsections that you might add to the document, they have to say yes for that. And the second part is, when you get the results, should you communicate it to them or not? It's an obligation of the researcher to communicate. Sometimes you may not get an answer at all. If that is there, then you have to actually explain that upfront in the informed consent document, that we may not come against a logical conclusion in this. So we may not be able to give you the results for that. That you have to explain, and the participant has to decide whether to say yes or no. And suppose you have got information which may be useful for the participant, then there's every obligation for you to actually communicate that to the participant. And for that, again, you give option, whether they want to know it or not know it. Stigmatizing diseases, they may opt for not knowing it. So that option has to be given to them. And this is true for genetic studies mostly. So when we talk of confidentiality, the lowest level is at the level of identifiers. The more you codify it, various ways of trying to hide that detail. Depending on that, the confidentiality element increases, the highest being for anonymous samples, where there are absolutely no linkages linking it back to the participant. In India, we have made it very clear that only the donors are the owners, and the researchers and the institution are only custodians of that. So keeping that in mind, they have to actually in the MOUs, etc., whatever they draw, they have to make this very clear when they're functioning in India. And the ethics committee, what does it decide about secondary use? So they will look what was the consent given for the original proposal. So they would like to know the details about that, and then the validity of the objectives of the new research, or have you ensured that there would be proper anonymity, permission of legally authorized representative for post-mortem uses, consent form should mention whether it will be retained for future or it will be destroyed after the period of the study is over. And also allow for waiver of consent when it is very impractical to actually obtain consent for further studies. Then return of research results, I have already told you. Genetic studies, it could lead to harm, perhaps. So that's why the option should be given to the participant to know about it or not. And then sometimes in stigmatizing diseases, and depending upon the project that you are going to have, you can give aggregate data. You don't have to identify a person, and that would be actually giving back something to the participants, especially if it's a community project, etc. Benefit sharing is a very, very important aspect, and that's where the IPR issues, etc., come into play. And this has to be sorted out prior to initiating the project itself. And what would be the contribution, what would the share in benefit will not be known to the participants, but you have the responsibility to actually discuss that, especially the ethics committee. So informed consent document should have necessary clauses for clarity about benefit sharing. Benefit sharing can be to the donors, their families, or communities for products, tests, or resultant discoveries. In community-based studies, there is an obligation that you take back some benefit to the community from where you have drawn the participants. Preferably, this should be in kind and not in cash. There are various ways in which you can do that. I'm not going to discuss that here now. And then the ethics committee is responsible. From 2000 onwards, we have been writing in the ICMR guidelines, the revised version 2000, 2006, and 2017 about benefit sharing. But in India, the benefit sharing, at least for the drug trials, has become a law now by the regulatory body CDSCO about clinical trials where you're using the drugs. So possible benefits after post-trial access, they call it, and there's a particular phrase requirements regarding that. Now, what about the commercial purpose? This is very important. If you want to use the samples for commercial purpose, it's divided into two. Is it for research or is it for commercial purpose? And whatever has been laid down is purely for commercial use, not research. So that is that's why they explain that this will not be applicable for that the samples will be taken for research. And then the commercial kits and technologies should be affordable enough for accessibility in future by the participants. That's an obligation. And the institution should have robust data protection mechanism, MOU, progress reports should be got from the institution which is actually getting the samples. Any other stakeholder institution, if they are involved, they should also have a part in the MOU. It should be clearly laid out in what way that institution will be held responsible. And when it comes to companies, the ethical aspects, lots of responsibilities on the companies to follow. Ethical aspects, audits, regulatory compliance, responsibilities about use, products, science, financial interests, and so on. And these details actually have to be in the MOA or the material
जो
transfer
sponsored
agreement.
जो दिया गया
When it comes to data
चार
sets,
चार पांच छह लोग
we have now this Digital Privacy Data Protection Act. It harps a lot on privacy, mandates that the individual's rights are there for their data, how it is to be used, including access, correction, and deletion. Consent is also a very important aspect. All the organizations need to obtain clear, informed consent from individuals before collecting or processing their data. Data protection authorities have to be actually set up, and this authority will oversee the enforcement of the Act's provisions. And then the penalties. Penalties, if I just heard, the YouTube discussion about what the rules are. And I think it must have been a mistake. They said it may go to 250 crores. But I probably think it is 2.5 crores. It can go as high as that. And also cross-border data transfer also has been taken into account. Governs data transfer outside India,
उसका टाइमिंग ऐसा हो गया
ensuring compliance with similar data protection and
बोलना
data
चालू कर दिया चल ही
and
रहा
norms
है
in the other countries.
लोकल
Sort
बोल
of
रही थी उधर से वो बोलने
harmonization
लगा
which we require. In the morning we heard the country presentation. No, yesterday I think we heard the country presentations. So it is clear, like for good clinical practice, how harmonization had been done. We need to have some sort of harmonization for this also. The challenges are, of course, the ethical concerns and the infrastructure. Do you have the infrastructure to have the right equipments and trained scientists? We heard from Nepal in the morning how difficult it is to maintain that. So sustenance of the facility is also very, very important. And harmonization of policies, informatics, and regulations. We already heard about that. People have to be made aware of such a possibility. I think this has been talked about by many speakers earlier. And access and benefit sharing. This is something which was not talked about much, but it's a very, very important aspect. And when it comes to governance, in the ICMR guidelines, we have talked about technical authorization committee, which is responsible for laying down policies right from the beginning of collection of the samples to outsourcing. And if it is a very big one, you can have an ethics committee just for that. But these two committees will not, have common members. They will be two separate entities. And technical authorization committee, of course, will function in tandem with EC and oversee regulatory aspects, all about MTA, data transfer, etc., and have well structured SOPs, clear guidelines, and it is supposed to comprise clinicians, geneticists, lawyers, basic scientists, sociologists, epidemiologists, statisticians, and ethicists. Is slightly different from ethics committee structure requirement, but the presence of one is it's actually based on who and all you might require depending on the type of research that would be done on the collected samples. What will EC actually see about the data mining? So it will have to see for what purpose this data would be used, who will have the control, the access control, who and all will handle it, usefulness of the information for particular group, especially groups like rare disease group, whether this could be given to them, what would be the outcome which would be useful for them, data privacy, accuracy and security, possibility of legal liability, and auditing to detect misuse. For privacy, of course, you will have to follow what is there in DPDP Act now that it is out. And then you have to have, when you say controlled access, it it should actually delineate what will be the responsible of each member of that group which will have the access. And data encryption, whenever it is to be transferred to another institution or organization. HIPAA is actually talked about in US, but something like that. HIPAA actually takes away 18 identifiers. That sort of mechanism is not described in BPDP Act, but it insists on de-identifying whenever there's a transfer. So benefit sharing again talked about, and then when you talk about global collaboration, this is a new development which has come up, that you have to take NOC from ICMR for export of biomaterial for commercial purpose. And for research, when you have collaboration, it is very important. People don't know it. You have to register in BioRap, and this BioRap is actually hosted on DBT website. You have to get an ID from there. And this ID can be used for applying to ICMR. I mean, now the task is divided, like proposals from ICMR institutions and from private organizations would go to ICMR. My ICMR is the Secretariat for the Health Ministry Screening Committee. So this goes to them. And all government and government-aided institutions will send their proposals to the Ministry of Health. So the task is divided now. You may have, members who are here as well as there, but the task has been divided into government and non-government organization proposals. So Health Ministry Screening Committee is for ICMR and non-government institutions. Screening Committee for Research Proposals by the Ministry of Health, Department of Health, is for government and government-aided institutions. And then you have another committee called the DVT Screening Committee. So when it comes to biological material transfer, there has to be MOU, and the partners should be on equal footing, not be browbeaten by the other partner who is at a higher level, and material transfer agreement. And this is very important because they see the content, what is there. Is it actually protecting the interest of the Indian researcher, or is there any sensitive information going out? If so, what is that information? That is what the government is interested in, seeing that. And also it would like to encourage capacity building, whether the Indian researcher will get something out of it much more than what is expected as a partner, that the government these committees will look into that. So with that, I end my talk. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah. Do we have any questions? Dr. Abhishek.
They generally have so whether it is a tumor bank or a disease biobank, they are mostly in the hospitals, within the framework of the hospital, and the hospitals generally have a structure where the diagnostic modality with laboratory, medicine, pathology, genomics, transgenomics, and microbiology, they come under one vertical. So they also say that the biorepository being located as a part of the research, the custodianship is the doctors and the hospital, and also the patient. So how do you clarify these two verticals? This thing, I know it is a part of it. The custodianship is for the hospital.
Custodian is only the institution and the researcher. Okay.
So
now, if it is in the hospital, it will be an arrangement between the hospital and the agency which is working with that. You will have to decide how to go about it, but both of you will be considered as custodians. And researcher may be from your organization.
Yeah.
Still, that person also is a custodian. Okay. So you will have to evolve the policy, how you will go about it. Retention of the specimen.
yeah.
How long you will keep it, because the patient may come back to get that sample, it's my sample. So the donor, being the donor, that person has the ownership. So how will you do? Because sometimes you may require that. You just cannot give it. So you will have to develop a policy where a little bit will be kept aside for such future requests. And then that could be, destroyed, because sometimes you get this report from the private organizations that this will be kept for 3 months. This report will be kept for 3 months. After that, forget about it. That sort of language, it all depends. So the person, the donor, nowadays, many are literate people, they go through that. And then, oh, we are going to get it only 3 months, then we are not going to go to this institution. They will try to find out some other institution like that.
But in terms of the framework which allows the biorepository, which comes under the framework of the hospital, the custodianship can also be the hospital per se. And we also see arrangements where biorepositories have genomics and the other thing under them, like it's in their frame. How does it work out there when you are just a storage facility and everything, but you have your own genomics, which is different from the diagnostic genomics?
Yeah.
Or is it like just for
It's different. It's just for research.
Oh, it's just for research.
It's just for research.
And what about
there is a core just for the research, which is set for those samples.
But it is obviously a spin-off of the pathology, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it has to be a spin-off of the pathology, which is part of the diagnostic. Only for the QC you would have your own research and everything.
That's right.
So the framework
in the informed consent document, you will have to describe.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. I was about to say that. That's
that it will be given to this hospital for such and such tests and all that. Part of it will go to this page where this will be done, and then you will also have to tell something about the results. No, these results may or may not benefit you. In case it benefits you, we will communicate that.
Yeah, and we also see the existence of tissue release boards everywhere in our country where there is a TIM bank. So EC is of course a different parent body, but there are tissue release board who oversee the fate of the samples which are being shared to this thing. So where do you, SEMA doesn't have a mention of the TRBs in our documents.
Mention what?
Yeah, I was considering the ethics board
For everything.
and even for the tissue release board is not doing the ethical thing,
Not in the
but they are
Scientific aspect.
they are saying the scientific aspect, and at the same time they are saying that project has ethical clearance or not.
That's
So
it.
if there is not ethical clearance, then scientific committee can't allow the sample.
So it is just a gatekeeper of the documentation. Whether
Yeah,
it's
same like when you are going in the mall, you are purchasing something, but
yeah.
God is checking that whether you have the documents or not.
But is it a mandate to have a TRB? Because is it a mandate to have a
Yes,
TRB?
yes, definitely. Without that, you can't say
not the
all
EC,
about
but the
informed
tissue release.
consent and benefit sharing and all that is all easy.
No, but the reason I'm asking is if the hospital is scientific review committee and doesn't have a TRB, is it okay to have the EC and the SRC and not have a TRB?
Who has the ERB?
Tissue release.
No, why I'm saying is an ethics committee has to be there.
It is there.
Whether it is in the hospital or it is in the research institution. The point is that somebody has to oversee the ethical aspects are being taken care of or not.
Okay. That would be the.
And the hospital actually, this is where you will have to discuss and decide who will be responsible.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the new guidelines that ICMR has come up with, NOC or sending samples out. So for sending samples out for commercial purposes, only NOC. My question is it and along with the other guide approval, the DHRP, the second one?
DHR/ICMR has to be the NOC.
Okay.
For commercial purpose.
Okay.
It's totally removed from research aspect.
Okay. So what defines commercial purpose?
You're sending it for, say, for example, there's Mayo Clinic wants samples.
Okay.
Okay. You're sending all the thing. And Mayo Clinic is not saying that it's for research purposes.
Okay.
It might get some diagnostic kit evolved out of that, and that it will sell. Because sometimes, in the informed consent document, they write that this is for the participant. No, they write that this might be commercialized later, but you will have to have no right over
There
that.
is a language like that.
Yeah. So whenever ethics committee here, when the ethics committee, which is knows it's functioning properly, they will object to that. Those who don't know, they will just pass it.
Right.
But those who know, they will question. They will say, "Ah, you never can," especially the legal expert will say, "You can never do away with the rights."
Right. If you can go back to that slide, if possible, the NOC and the other one. So my question is two-part in here. Do we need to spell this out in our consent form that we are putting these samples out for commercial purpose or research purpose at international level?
Yeah.
And-
See, you have a very important question to actually. You are actually asking a very important question. What about commercial use? Does the ethics committee come into the picture or not? Actually, ethics
It
committee
does, but
has
how to spell it out? Yeah.
So it has to see for what purpose it is being done that way, you know. So is it any now here I cannot argue about benefit sharing or anything like that. But we would like to know for what purpose it is. At this moment we cannot spell it out because it's a case to case basis. No? So maybe 2 years from now it will become more clear. And so it has a say there. And the thing that it says is about informed consent.
Right.
Even for commercial use, if you are taking, has the informed consent been taken or not?
Right. But
That
that's
is the
not
main-
just the case.
main
You
idea.
spell out that the samples are going for commercial use in that informed consent.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So a blanket term needs to be used for something like that in India.
Blanket is removed now
Okay.
after the declaration of
Yeah.
Taipei. So this came before that, you know, that's why blanket all broad is given.
Is given.
Next guidelines actually to be taken out, but I don't know whether I'll be part of next guidelines or not.
So if you can go back to the NOC slide. My question is about sending the only top one, only the NOC.
For commercial purpose only the
Only
NOC.
NOC. Isn't it counterintuitive? Because you're making money on the commercial and still these research is still
No, the
benefit
thing is, you see,
to
what happens
patients.
is there are these biospecimens in the lab. After 6 months or 9 months, depending on their policy, they will destroy it. Why destroy it if it can be used for some purpose?
Okay.
Mostly it is for preparation of cell lines, diagnostic kit, or comparison of methodologies.
Right.
Or staining if it is
Or
a
like
block.
Optimizing our
Yeah.
flow or something.
So for that purpose they need.
Hmm.
They don't have to go to patients to get this. No? They can get it from here, which will be waste. It's biological waste actually. So that can go for a commercial purpose.
Is there any definition or defined sample set for commercial purpose, or there's no such defined set? Okay. Good to know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If we are done with questions, I'll thank Dr. Nandini for in-depth ethical guidelines, and I'm sure we have a bunch of more questions we can carry forward and communicate through email and stuff. I'll quickly go over what I have to say about sustainability. Hopefully the second last session, just before Dr. Birendra. So, getting started, I want to thank Dr. Birendra for having me here as an organization committee and organizing such a beautiful lineup of talks. It's pity that many of the people are not attending right now, but I think this particular workshop is one of the most important if you want to get into biobanking and stay long term. So we'll jump to the sustainability. I have few points to share, and I will try to make it short and fast. So my introduction is done, so let's not get into that. But there are few aspects that are important if you once you start the biobank for its sustainability. So what is the definition of sustainability? Is to maintain the operations, services, and resources for longer term. So actually, a good biomedical research can come out of it, and it can go back to the society as a clinical benefit. So financial sustainability, ethical governance, regulatory compliances, and having it continuously supporting the scientific research and outcomes that benefit to the society is the key pillars. Now, the three aspects of these, the two aspects, the ethical and the regulatory compliances, have been talked about quite a lot. I will focus on the financial stability and how we draw the scientific value out of these resources. Those 2 points I'll focus on. So there are various different funding models that are existing in the world. We have been talking about it in these 2 days quite a lot. The major supporter of biobanking so far all across the world that we see is government support. About 80 to 90% of the biobanks are initiated with government support, and many of them are aspiring towards sustainability through various other sources of financial funds. So in India, DBT, ICM are one of the major scientific bodies that support biobanking. There are private-public partnerships through CSR funds are also being availed. I'll give one of the examples of our own biobank, which is supported by CSR funds. One of the very good points that Dr. Kaumudi brought out yesterday is patient-driven support for such activities. Now, there are many patients who go through the process of getting cured for cancer, and they come back to the clinicians and hospitals to give back to the society, so that the patients who are coming forward don't go through the hurdles that they have been through. And there have been many such generous patients who have formed support groups overseas, and we see within our community also at smaller scale such patient support groups have formed, and they do come back to the efforts that we have put in to support in whatever financial support they can provide. So that's a major source we can tap into for sustainability angle. And the last one is fee for service model commercialization, which actually the last discussion point that we had amongst panelists here is the samples that have been stored for long term are just going to sit there. We can commercialize them and help that fees and financial input to sustain the biobank operations. So the major stakeholders that we want to engage to have continuous supply of funds and support system is making aware not just the scientific community, clinicians and patients, but a larger part of the community who understands what this effort entails and what it means in a long term in a population basis. So public awareness campaigns and transparency on the biobanking operations, the kind of samples you maintain, and what do you use these samples for? What are the outcomes of whatever research, clinical trials that have been conducted with your units, how they have helped the society. If you can broadcast these information and resources, many more people would be aware and would be drawn for support. And of course, the pharma, biotech, academia partnership, which majority of us are currently utilizing as a support system. Now, this is to bring in the funds, but as you maintain the biobank systems, there are various ways you can make it more efficient in terms of financial management, is efficient resource utilization, standardization of sample processing and storage. Now, this automation came up again and again when I was looking through cost-effective management, and majority of these papers refer to the Western world, where funds are not limiting. When we come to LMIC, this is a major holdback for us. It's quite difficult to build resources and funds for automations, but we do have pretty good advantage in terms of trained staff who, if we can manage to train well and sustain, rather than sustaining the financial support, sustaining well-trained staff who understands the importance of biobanking is what we can capitalize on. And I've met one of few very good people who are into biobanking with passion and very good technical know-how. And I hope that we can build such community and maintain and grow such community. That would be a very good asset in places like India, which are LMICs, for us to going forward. Another option is having technical advances. Like right now, we need -80s and liquid nitrogens to store such samples. But there are places, instances where we can store these samples at room temperature. For example, a tissue sample, if we keep it in RNA later solution, it can be stored at room temperature. That solution exists only for RNA related technologies right now. We cannot use that sample for DNA and protein and various other things. So if we have any technical advances where the temperature requirement is removed, this becomes quite manageable and cost effective, especially for places like LMICs. So, sorry about the mishap here. I wanted to give few examples of well-established biobanks in India which are striving towards sustainability and started with various modes of funding. So we all know TISTI, which is the maternal fetal longitudinal cohort, started with Dr. Pallavi Kshetrapal. It's in Delhi here, supported by DBT funds. There is another biobank, Bharat Cancer Genome Atlas, which was just released a couple of months ago, led by Dr. Mahalingam at IIT Madras. That was also started with DBT funds. We have a very good example of HGC, Dr. Abhishek Mohanty is here with us, and RGCRSC, which is led by Dr. Juhi Tayal, which is trust funded. The hospital funds, the hospital with which the biobank is associated with, they fund the operations of biorepository, and that's how they have been sustaining, or they're doing pretty well. And RGCRSC is one of our parent biobank, which we look up to and learn a lot of things at our center, as we'll be talking about later. There is another commercialized biobank that we have in India, Sapiens Bio, started about 10 years ago by Dr. Jugnu Jain, and that was started with venture capital funds. And now it is sustained with commercial use. So India itself, we have handful of examples, but there are examples that are working, viable, and sustaining very well. So going forward, I'll give one example that's ours, the biobank, which is breast tissue specific. It is 100% supported by CSR funds by Bajaj Auto. To give you a brief about how the operations work, is Dr. Priya has talked a lot about it, but we started about 2018, where initially we called patients who have been working with Dr. Kopikar and started requesting consenting for depositing tissue. That's how we started with. Then we have a paper-based file system, which we started curating with a 4 trained staff. And now we have completely moved on to EMR and EHR systems where data gets drawn from the computer to MySQL database directly. We also have now image-based database along with the clinical data and patient information, demographic information, which is logged in for about 500 patients. And I'm actually very proud to talk about the biggest strength of our cohort is follow-up. We have about 80% follow-up of the patients. So this is one of the old slides. This paper was published in 2018 when we had about 1,000 patients. But as Dr. Priya mentioned yesterday, we have over 1,800 patient sample data now, and the follow-up is pretty strictly maintained through and through. So this was the paper published, and the model that we have, here, does it go back? Yeah. So the model that we have here, the purpose here was not to establish the biobank. We started to work on the biobank with the aim and the goal to do research on certain aspects, focusing on specifically triple negative in Indian context. I'm not going to go into the biology of it, but the focus was clinical angle and research angle, and that's why the biobank became, although it was the means and the tools to do the research, we made sure that the integrity and the sample quality was of utmost highest standard for us to do the research that we wanted to do. And eventually the goal is we go to the academia where we're partnering with ICER Pune, that's where all the research that happens, and eventually come back to the clinic with outputs that we have. We have a couple of projects that have advanced now, which we are going to do investigator-initiated trials, which will be going back to Prashanti Clinic for the first investigator-initiated trial. So to give you a couple of brief outputs, is one of the very first project that came out of this biobank is understanding the tumor lymphocyte infiltration across different subtypes in breast cancer. And this is the very first report for Indian population to show that triple negative breast cancer has highest amount of infiltration, and the extent of infiltration matters towards prognosis. We are taking these samples, this study forward by looking at various different types of immune cells in triple negative specifically. by multiplex. This is one of the state-of-the-art technology where we can look at multiple different immune cells and how they're juxtaposed with tumor cells and understand their interaction. Let's go fast. Understand their interaction and differences for patients who have responded to therapy versus patients who did not respond to chemotherapy. So as you can see here, these are the whole slide scans, multiple different markers, and when we analyze those data, we see quite significant differences in B cell, T cell infiltration when we compare responders and non-responders. Now, the same set of samples, we have taken them through the quality control for multiomics analysis, and as I mentioned, we started 2018, and the samples that we started gathering were over 10 years old, 5 years old. So we wanted to make sure, although we have such an old cohort with us, is this useful for multiomics study? And we did a bunch of comparative analysis with various different techniques to compare contrast 10-year-old older samples, 5-year-old samples, whether we can use the RNA extracted from these FFP blocks. We used 3 different techniques, and we used 2 different technologies to sequence those. And as you can see here, there are a couple of kits and couple of workflows that we have identified that work beautifully even with 10-year-old samples, and we have a DB200 of above 40% for about 80% of the samples, with almost all the samples mapping up to 95% with the human genome. So the quality is maintained. We did further quality control with various different markers, and the samples are good to go. We are going to take up a huge transcriptomic study with this. So the idea here to talk about is have a clear, defined goal and purpose. So that where the biobank is going to be used for, and it drives quite a lot of support, not just from the government, but various different stakeholders. When you have a clear, defined output to showcase for longer sustainability. So with that, I think I'll stop here and thank the 2 teams that we work with, Dr. Kopikar and Lale Bhujari, who drive the clinic and the biobank at Prashanti Cancer Care Mission side, and we have a team of scientists at ICER Pune and various different funding bodies, including Bajaj Auto. The entire biobank 100% is supported by Bajaj Auto CSR funds. The research that we do is supported by DBT, and that's where I'll stop. And I think along with me, all of us can take questions. If no question, then I'll pass it on to Dr. Birendra for closing. Yeah.
I just wanted to let you all know that when the new drug and clinical trials rules came out in 2019, it indirectly mandated the ICMR guidelines of 2017. We were actually pushing for a separate act based on the ICMR guidelines, but it did not happen. I'm to cut the story short. We had discussion with the ministry, and what they thought was ethics committee is common. Whether you are going to do the regulatory clinical trial or non-regulatory clinical trial, academic, whatever. So let us concentrate on ethics committee. So what happened was in clause 15, they described that if you are going to do biomedical and health research, you have to follow the National Ethical Guidelines of 2017. When it becomes a rule, it becomes a law. So when you say you have to follow ICMR guidelines, it is not ethics committee alone. Every section of ICMR guidelines becomes law. So that you have to bear in mind. But you should not ask for a separate law for that. Is it there in the ICMR guidelines? If it is there, it is law. It is biomedical research. CTR, NDCT rule is
Yeah.
only for interventional trials, which come under the purview of the
CTCR. So this will come as a BHR, but biorepository design clinical trial, but doesn't require a CTR registration.
But at the same time, the chapter or the section on biobanking will become law for the biobank.
Thanks, madam. Yeah, so the motive of this workshop is to know that how we can sustain. Sustainability means not the only the financial sustainability, but ethical sustainability, your relation sustainability, trust with donor sustainability, trust with researcher sustainability. If biobank will have sustainability in all stakeholders, then it will survive. And as I told in morning that if you think the biobank being a car, and at some point they get old, means when the funding agency stop the fund, then after 5 and 6 years it will become old, and then you need the mechanics for that one. You will always need the mechanics, and people who make the cars, the mechanics will make the cars in the same way. For the biobanks, you need the maintenance of this. You will always need a drivers, and the people who make them is to reach their destination. And you will always have the passengers. And in our case, passengers are the donors. So if you have to sustain with the donors, those are your passengers. And the people who benefit from being taken on the journey, that would be the scientist. Yeah. And you will always need a fuel. And the fuel of the biobank is their resources, their technicians, their managers, and these things. So it is needed to the fuel to have the biobank. So these are overall all the conclusion of this workshop: to have the mechanics, to have the drivers, have the passengers, and also have the fuel to run the biobank to make the sustainable in all. So thank you for attending the workshop, and I think that it will be valuable to all. If you have any question, you can write to mail with the BBIF mail. And one more thing is that to train the good manpowers, there is a need for good knowledge, and some of the good organization is running the biobanking courses like ISPER, and also the Biobank India Foundation has started the biobanking courses. In the diploma courses with that one, we are going to sign the MOU with some of the universities as a vocational course. So this is the only one organization in India who is running such type of course to make the trained manpower for the technicians, scientists, researchers as a good, trained, and sustainable drivers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would request Dr. Mohanty to kindly come on dais to felicitate our workshop speakers. अब दिल थाम के बैठिए, क्योंकि जिस वक्त का सब बच्चों को इंतजार होता है, सब प्रेजेंटर्स को इंतजार होता है, वो घड़ी आ गई है. So I would like all the students to kindly come forward and applaud those who are the winners. Though it is a very tough time for the judges to basically judge out who is doing what and in what sense it is a better presentation. So it is a very difficult job, but still very difficult. Almost everyone had near about more or less very judgment, but being judgmental is very difficult in such a situation. And but in spite of that, since we have such kind of that forum that where we have to find out somebody who is the best and the runner up. So in that category we have BBIF this year has taken out because the presentations were many. So we have two posters presentations winners and two runner-ups, and one oral presentation the winner, and also from the RNA, since we had another conference with us, that is Asia Pacific Forum on RNA Therapeutics and Vaccines. So there also we have one poster presentation and one runner-up. So we have in all 7 who have been selected for as winners and runner-ups in all. So I'm going to announce the name, and I would request Dr. Nandini ma'am. So I would request Dr. Gouri also to come on, guys. And please keep applauding. तालियां रुकनी नहीं चाहिए. बहुत मेहनत करते हैं बच्चे, बहुत हार्ड वर्क होता है. When they compile their work and present it over here, and under that stress of competition, it is really difficult. So in the category of the oral presentation, Diksha Madhuri from AIMS. I will request Diksha if she is here. She's not there. So now I will announce the winners and runner-ups for our Asia Pacific Forum on RNA and Therapeutics and Vaccines. The best poster presentation goes to Mukesh Maurya from JNU. Mukesh, I think energy is doubled. You can run up. And the runner-up for this category is again the Shivani Sharma from South Asian University. Yeah, Diksha is here. So she is the one who got the best oral presentation award. Congratulations. And we have further two best poster presentation winners. For this is Mr. Prabhu from JNU, from Nimhai, sorry. And Mr. Ashik Babu is the second winner. He is from JNU. Mr. Ashik Babu from JNU, he is not here. I think he's not. He is also the winner for the poster presentation. And the two runner-ups names, Mitali from Manav Rachna Institute of Research and Studies, Haryana. And second runner-up is Megha Malik from JNU. I would request Dr. Jasis also to kindly join us and encourage these students. All the students all the winners kindly come on dais again for a group photograph. All together.
लाइट बंद क्यों कर देता है ये?
पता नहीं उसको क्या बीमारी है, हर बार लाइट बंद करके बैठ जाता है
So
और
I
गायब हो
will
जाता है।
announce Diksha Madhuri for oral presentation, and from RNA from the conference APFR TV 2025, Mukesh Maurya, Shivani Sharma from South Asian University. Two winners for the poster presentations are Prabhu and Ashik Babu. They both are not there. Prabhu is there. Right? Mitali and Megha Malik, the runner-ups.
के बाद क्या दिनों के बाद बहुत दिनों के बाद
Yes. Now is the time for vote of thanks. I will request Dr. Nandini ma'am to kindly come.
So we have had 2 days of deliberation, and I hope all of you have learned something. There have been some takeaway messages. Generally, last session there used to be a joke. No, the speaker, one speaker is speaking with only one audience, and then he thanks that person. He says, "I am the next speaker." Okay. So I was thinking for a moment. I thought that only the prize winners and we four of us and 2 or 3 other people who were interested in asking us questions alone were there. But slowly, I think people have poured in, and I actually wish to thank all of you for your presence here, the speakers as well as the audience. I thank JNU for organizing this program along with BBIF, and we also had the other forum partnering with BBIF. I thank them also, and also for the arrangement of the auditorium, the food, etc. I thank the organizers for having arranged it in a well conducted manner. And with that, I think I wish all those who are going to far off places safe journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request Dr. Birendra to kindly give a vote of thanks.
Thank you all. A very good evening, and thank you, ma'am, for giving the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee members from the APFRTV, Dr. Sandhya and her team, Dr. Yadav and Dr. Sakshi, and all members of the SCMM. I would also like to thank Dr. Kavita Arora. Without her help, it was impossible for me to organize this conference. Even she was awake all night and for preparing everything. And I learned a lot with her attitude to work and how she's doing the with single correction. So I have organized many conferences. I think that 15 conferences I've organized. But this time I learned a lot due to the and now I also thanks our organizing societies, Dr. KP Singh, President NMS, Professor MS Gaur, Executive President NMS, and his team for valuable input, suggestion, and support. And also the local organizing committee of the JNU, Dr. Tulika Prasad, AIRF, Madam Dr. Tulika has also helped a lot. All the volunteers is organized by Dr. Tulika. Thank you, Dr. Tulika. And Dr. Gajendra, SIS JNU with NCC team, and Professor Sapna Ratan SSCIS, Dr. Fatma Solanki ENS, and rest all who have day and night contributed over managing integrity this event. And I would also like to thank Professor Manrada Chaudhary, Dean of Resident Inter-Hall Administration, for providing support in materializing marathon NCC and support volunteers. Today in morning, even she was there, and it was possible due to her support. And now I acknowledge the most pillars of the JNU. Without their permission or help, it was not possible to organize such a conference in here. Professor Sansri Dillupuri Pandit, Vice Chancellor JNU, Professor Rajesh Kumar Pandey, Rector 1, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and Professor Dipender Nath Das, Rector 2, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I would also like to thank all the supporters and supporters of the convention centers, our organizing member, Gen Media TV News for covering all the events from the day one till 8, and it was going live all the time. I think that all the events will be available also on the YouTube. So if you have missed any of the events, any of the talk, because there was a parallel session in the Biobank, therapeutic and vaccine, there was a nanomolecular session, there was a biobanking session. So if I missed any of the session, you can go to the YouTube channel and you can find there the talk. And I will also thanks for our catering person and even the management of the convention center who has helped us. So at last, thank you for all. And now Dr. Gouri is coming to say something.
This is big responsibility given to Dr. Yadav. I was thinking that thanks to all, everyone part of the thanks. But you know, untiring efforts expended by the Dr. Yadav from last 6 months. This is a big role. We have a scientific meeting weekly discussing each and every session. This is the big thing, what I learned from the Dr. Yadav. We are careful about each and every talk, each and every interaction session, everything, so that conference will move without error. This errorless conference, what I observed. So whole credit to bring the people from the different discipline. It was a big task. This whole credit goes to Dr. Yadav. So last but not least, credit goes to Dr. Yadav. Big hands to Dr. Yadav. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Wish you safe and nice journey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we have some of the token of appreciation for our some of the. So I would
like to call upon Dr. Janak. For being so supportive for our conference. Also, Dr. Swati Garg. Council, please.
I'm once about only right now. हमारे सोशल मीडिया पे जाता है ना, मैं आपको व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेज कर दूँ।
Dr. Gouri has requested all the students to kindly come who has worked really hard, all supportive societies and teams, and please all of you come on, guys. Sarkar requested. Firstly, Dr. Gouri, please, Dr. Jhalak. Dr. Swati Garg. Shalika ma'am, come and join us. अभी आप कैसे पीछे रह गए मैम? नंदिनी मैम आ जाइए, ये तो हम सबके लिए बहुत ऑनर है। आ जाइए सर प्लीज। Now I will request Dr. Gaur to kindly felicitate our organizer, chief organizer, Dr. Birendra Kumar Yadav.
जाते जाते लाइट ऑन किया
लेकिन वहाँ पे अपना बंदा भी चाहिए।
And now I announce the person without her help in every conference. She is my backbone, Dr. Usha Jain.
Do write something about the kind of work.
And Mr. Lalit Sharma.
शिफ्ट करा सबको राइट में, राइट साइड शिफ्ट। उसको ललित को बोलो वो नहीं को बेवकूफ की तरह कहा है। एडिट कर
वो तो लाइव
और सक्सेस सिंपल
ये रसियन है, ये रसियन है, ये इंडियन है।
इसको एडिटिंग को बिठाओ, ये पागल हो जाएगा। ये तेरे फोटोज और वीडियोस इसको निकालने हैं ना इनमें से।